All right, we know that right now is nap time, and so we're going to hopefully liven this up. First and foremost, Bernie, we're in a contracted phase now with media where everyone and their mother is investing in traditional scripted franchises. You have Game of Thrones, you have Lord of the Rings, you have Marvel, Avengers, and so forth. Why choose interactive media, and what is interactive media?
It's a two-part question, right? So interactive media, why choose it? It's because, well, I believe that the younger generation, our kids, as you say, those of us who grew up on the iPhone, on the iPad, those of us who are used to touching our content, are going to expect this from our content sooner than later, if not, tomorrow, next year. So I do think the future of our industry has to go this way. I'm not saying that movies will go away. I'm not saying TVs will go away. Just like books haven't gone away and just like newspapers haven't gone away, they're going to stabilize and stabilize as a medium, but this new wave of interactive content, whether it be gaming, whether it be interactive storytelling, immersive storytelling, that's why I play in it. And I just find as a storyteller, I find it far more challenging and invigorating as a creator to play in those spaces.
So this will sound like a provincial question, but when Hollywood thinks of interactive storytelling, they think Netflix's Bandersnatch.
Of course.
You can sort of choose your own adventure.
Yes.
Is that interactive storytelling? And if not, what is? What calibrates or codifies, rather, interactive storytelling? What are the 5 pieces?
Sure. Netflix's Bandersnatch is definitely interactive. It is you are interacting as a player or a watcher to the content. You are guiding your path and so forth. But it is not at the level of interactivity and immersiveness as artificial is, all due respect, and they're just 2 different things. So Netflix's format has been a format in books for generations. Goosebumps has been doing it for 30 years. Goosebumps literally just did something on Twitch like a week ago. So that format, choose your own adventure, has been there for a generation, 2 generations, you want to say. Artificial's innovation is in participatory storytelling. The concept of that is that you're trying to build the entire audience into the show as it's going. So to kind of preface what Artificial is, to many of you who probably don't know what it is, it's a sci-fi series that's on Twitch, the platform. The main character is an AI being, played by Tiffany, this lady right here. And it's scripted, it's serialized, it's a sci-fi story about an AI being, and we do it live and we do it interactive, meaning that we've built in nodes for the audience to shift the story together as a group. So democratically, they can shift the story different ways, or they can ask questions, and she, as the character, can answer these questions live, in character, during the broadcast. It brings back event viewing. It brings participatory urgency from the audience, so the audience feels like they are helping the character or hurting the character. If you choose to hurt this lovely lady, that's on you. And that's what the innovation was. And this is what I like to say is that artificial makes the audience consequential. And I firmly believe that is why we won the Peabody, and that is why we won the Emmy, because no other show can do this that has been done at this scale. A scripted sci-fi series where the audience is consequential to the narrative.
Let's talk about the participatory consequence on the other side of the camera for Tiffany. Tiffany, you had just gotten off of filming this prestige indie film, Miss Purple, as Miss Purple, of course. Spoiler, she's Miss Purple, in addition to being an artificial AI. But Tiffany, what is that like as an artist to engage the audience in a participatory way but still be somewhat scripted? And how is it different than, / the same from filming a traditional prestige piece?
So coming from Miss Purple was my first feature film. I have never done theater. And I felt like for Artificial, the live components of it, it was very much, in a way, theater, just because during the live sections, it's just all one and done. And so for me, it was also finding out and figuring out with the team how to go about this live stream. And we're all kind of figuring out, because it's never been done before, about how to do it. And I mean, the first few times, me and Tohoru, who plays my dad, Dr. Matt Lin, we were both, trying to figure it out. But, we were fortunate enough with our great team of writers that we all really love this experience. And for me, it's very fun as the character and playing the character that I am also going through the same ups and downs as the audience is, because I don't know what's going to happen next. And so for me, that's very exciting.
That's interesting. So sort of like a reciprocal participation, both from you as well as the audience. So the creator becomes fan becomes creator, as it were. This question is for all of you. So if you were to say the formula for a successful interactive story, what would it be? So you already mentioned it has to be participatory with the audience, right? They have to dictate. Tiffany just corroborated that participation happens on both sides of the camera. Second is it's really appointment viewing, right? So it's a seminal sort of event-like thing, right? What else codifies a successful interactive story?
Well, tangible consequences, right? Like that whole participatory. Okay, so Bandersnatch is interactive. It's an interesting format. It's not a new format. It's an expensive format to have to create that many forks, right? Whereas the fundamental difference to understand about artificial and live, you can't do that. You can't really do these many different cuts and kind of go back and forth in multiple branch. You predict the branches, but then you do it in one take. So that's a fundamental difference. But the thing about a Bandersnatch or even the Goosebumps experience or other choose your own adventure experiences, which has been on the internet forever, is it's an individualized, singular experience, as in you go through the path and that was your experience. You may bother to go back and try a different path, but chances are you're not going to do that. Whereas in artificial and the power of live interactive, the community, in this case, voted and selected a choice from a poll. That poll then needs to be reacted to by the team and the cast. And that then affects the remainder of the show. So now you as an audience member feel like you've changed the course of the show irreparably. You can't go back. And in this case, it changes immediately, as in you see the positive feedback from the show in the form of your question gets answered or something else, which means now you have actually contributed to the show. You have forever changed the show and you have that satisfactory feeling of doing that. And then you start to see in the future shows the consequences of those decisions that you made collectively as a community. And you can never see another alternative version of that. And so it's like the highest form of consequence in this show format.
That's cool. So outside of irreparable tangible consequences, which is really well said, are there any other sort of criteria to make a successful interactive story?
I mean, I think you're picking back. What you do is you have to start with that. It's again, consequentiality, because then it's stakes. Now the audience cares. Once you have that, then you can tack on things like monetization methods, interactivity methods, gamifying the system. All that can play in to that ability. But I think, especially after doing the show for a couple of years now, that it all comes down to consequence. Yeah. And that's the difference that separates what we do in this show from a video game. Because a video game, though is technically consequential, you get to replay it. So like in Game of Thrones, in Grand Theft Auto, you can go do something totally illegal, drive a car through a bank and so forth for funsies, but then you get caught by the police, which is technically the consequence, but you can just restart the game again and play it again. So that's technically not consequential. For us, when the audience makes a choice or asks a question, there's no, as Kevin said, there's no resetting that. There's no alternate universe play that you get to see because it doesn't exist. That creates the stakes. That's the next level. Now the audience is with you on it. They're not just watching Luke Skywalker blow up the Death Star. They're inherently either helping him or hurting him. I mean, you can just watch. That's okay. Our show is designed where we have many viewers, high-profile viewers who just watch the show, never interacted, never even watched it live, just watched the replays. That's fine. It plays just fine as a TV show. But the event, the innovation comes from being there and impacting the narrative and being a consequential audience.
That makes sense. So the trinity of interactive story is participation, appointed event, and irreparable tangible consequence. So let's say we have all those three and we nail them. Bernie, you alluded to this earlier, and this is really for everyone. But if I'm a studio head, for instance, whether it's a major or indie studio, when should I engage interactive storytelling, or when does just doing what I'm already doing make more sense?
What do you think, Kev?
Oh man,
bias.
I'm curious. Has anyone watched like a live cast or Twitch or anything like that? Okay, so okay, so if you really break that experience down to its absolute core, it is a video player. It is a chat room. Good broadcasters interact with the chat room, as in they'll take questions or they'll respond to people in chat. They're essentially acknowledging that the audience is there, and thus the audience feels like they're part of the show because they can impact the show forever. And that saves in a video, and you can share that and brag about it. It's like calling into a live radio show or getting your name across a ticker during like a telethon or something like that, right? It's like this little thing you can take away from it. Okay, so that's a basic. If you're a studio, I mean, it depends. Like, it's live. For this type of interactivity, it needs to be live. Does it need to change on the fly? Maybe not necessarily, because there's so many changes you have to deploy. I mean, I think about, as people talk about new TV, there's this concept of like a 10-minute show, right? Which is seemingly an innocuous concept, but to the internet viewer, 10 minutes is a fairly long time. To the TV production experienced experts peoples, 10 minutes is kind of a weird short period of time. So who are you really appealing to? And so that's kind of a weird angle approach. Live is a whole different beast where you can probably still apply a lot of the expertise you know, as in you can maybe make it in 22 minutes or an hour or something like that. But then you have to decide on what that interactivity is going to be. Is it within the show? Is it future consequence in subsequent shows? How are you taking that audience? I think about Lost. Reddit was convinced that the Lost writers were reading Reddit and changing the show, which is a complete like that obviously wasn't happening, but they were so convinced that it was. And so can you do that? Like, can you actually listen? Can you actually change the course of this show without disrupting current television production standards and expectations as a first step in? Because if you try to jump from what you typically do for television and movies to what Bernie and Tiffany have done, that's a lot, right? That's a lot to absorb, whole different expertise, and it's still technology around that still being formed. So I think it's definitely worth thinking about and learning about. But you gotta really, if you wanna do interactive, you gotta kind of baby step in.
Yeah. Let's talk about what's missing for strong interactive storytelling. So Tiffany is an artist. What skills and experiences do you think are critical to ensuring that your performance is as participatory, authentic, and so forth, but still obviously award-winning as it could be? And then what do you think most people are, I guess by virtue of that, are missing, which would be why this format is so challenging for some?
Well, particularly in playing, an artificial intelligence, it was actually really funny. In my first acting class, my acting teacher said that I was like a robot, and voila, here I am.
That's what I'm going for.
That's what I was
my
going
Emmy.
for. And so, very different from the character that I played in Miss Purple, that especially approaching the script and this character, even if me personally, I didn't agree with the choices or I, had some sort of feeling towards it, that I needed to approach it as in, not in a logical way, but as in taking all the emotions out of it, because as an artificial intelligence, you're not sure what's right or wrong. You're just simply, going down the list. And so for me, it was just really simple of just taking all the emotion out of it.
Fair enough. Kevin, Bernie, what other tools are critical and or what's missing?
Well, let me take a step back and go up a little higher on the technology view of this whole thing. So Kevin comes from technology. I grew up in Silicon Valley. So there's this kind of hacker mentality and speed mentality that you do up there. Even though coding, can inherently be slow, it's still fast. And in contrast, film production is really slow. So what I mean by that is that every other industry that I could think of off the top of my head, except for our industry, entertainment, has gone to the speed model, meaning that they release the product, whatever product is, they get the feedback from the audience, and they build the feedback back into the product as soon as possible. They'd like this better. Okay, let's optimize. They'd like this. They don't like this. Let's optimize against that. Our industry doesn't do that. Our industry shoots all their content, like Game of Thrones Season 8, classic example. No one loved it. Well, maybe some of you did.
How dare you.
Most people didn't love it, right? But they shot it 2 years ago. So that HBO just had to just take all the criticism. They just had to sit there and take it for 7 episodes while the internet just blasted it. Like, wow, no pivot, no optimization, no nothing. Okay? But for us, and if you're going to a speed model, you can pivot. You can optimize your show to the audience member, to data. It doesn't have to be active data. It can be passive data, something we've talked about. How do you integrate passive data? Active data being comments and polls, passive data being just the data from the listener or the watcher, and integrating that into optimizing your content. So that's what I think the industry, again, you guys can all tell me I'm wrong because we're all in this industry together, but that's what I think the next wave is, because there's the industry that's just adding more content, right? Like, we're going to do more Marvel movies and we're going to do more franchises, and that's all great. I love them. Happy to watch them with you guys. I'm right there with you. Frozen 2 coming up, can't wait. But for me though, it's like, for the business, it just feels like for the young adults coming in who are used to getting the optimized version of everything super quickly, why doesn't our content optimize like that? Because we're in this old model. And if the old model works for your shows, your hit shows, and your movies, hey, great. Like, I'm not telling you to blow that up. I'm just saying there's probably, for every hit, there's 99 just like huge money losses of content out there that we're just not hearing about, except for the high profile stuff, of course. So what if you took that and mitigated your risk and went to a speed model of fast content, just like fast fashion, and car assembly, instead of a 4-year cycle, when you go to a car show, you see a car that's 4 years later, you see the car that's next year, because they're optimizing there. That's the core high-level point of view I look at this as a storyteller, because we come from the tech world, and that's what we're taught. The irony is that, I came to the tech world, learned how to screenwrite, direct, and everything, and then thought, like, why is this so slow? And so that leaned me toward this other side of going, but people don't like this. Why can't we fix this, like, now? Why, are we just going to serve this bad burger?
So what elements of immediate optimization do you think have really taken off, and then which ones are sort of straggling? So in one instance of something that's straggling, it would be difficult to optimize Game of Thrones episode by episode.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, if cameras get there, if Jim Cameron does his job, like, in theory, we'll get there sooner rather than later, right?
Let's not take Game of Thrones. Let's take a very simple format, all right? Let's take two formats that I believe, anybody out here wants
to be able to just like summon a dragon arbitrarily?
I mean, Jim Cameron can.
Jim Cameron, yeah. So two formats that I believe that the artificial format, Twitch specifically, and this format could optimize tomorrow, okay? Old formats. Number one, the multi-cam sitcom. The multi-cam sitcom could use this format tomorrow and revolutionize that thing overnight. Yeah. It's already shot live in front of the audience. It's just not broadcast live, and it has no interactive tech that's built into it. If you took Big Bang Theory, shot it live, and broadcast over Twitch, all the data is coming in real time, and you can optimize that, whether it be in episode, like we do, or between episodes, which is just fine. You could do that way too, right? The other one is the daily soap opera. Very stale format. 60 years old, 50 years old, daily format, high drama, high consequence, as we talked about, high consequence. You add that poll system into that system. You don't have to do it live. You can still do it the way you do it, just daily. But if you add that poll system into daily soap opera, suddenly that's revolutionized because now the audience has high stakes. Oh my God, if I miss this episode, I don't get to vote for the doctor to sleep with the nurse versus the psychiatrist. Oh man, I can't miss it. I can't miss it. I got to be there for my stories. I got to be there for my characters. That's the relationship you create when you create interactivity. The audience, if you've done your job as a franchise storyteller, you've gotten the audience to love your characters. Luke Skywalker, the Marvel movies, I'm just thinking Disney stuff, whatever. But the audience loves those characters to death. Yeah. But they don't get to help them. Yeah. They never get to help them. Yeah. And now you're giving them the chance to.
That's fair enough. So immediate optimization, these two formats, one could argue talk shows are probably a third. How else does interactive storytelling evolve in the next 3 to 5 years? Because everyone and their mother is investing in this in some way, right? Some more provincially than others, I think we'd agree. This is by far the most innovative I think the market has seen, which is why it's won the Emmy, right?
Biasly agree.
Yeah, but where
Same.
You all have to agree. You're getting paid. Where else does this go?
I mean, I think you can, like, video games is a very easy example. It is truly interactive entertainment. And you've got cutscenes, you've got parts that you play through, so you can imagine that same control set available for a non-game content experience like artificial. So instead of a poll, you could literally have up, down, left, right, A, B, whatever, buttons. Then, just thinking about the actual production side, this is not a perfect example, but NBA G League does stuff on Twitch. Okay, so their innovation on Twitch is that they give a generic feed of a basketball game to our creators, as in our armchair commentators commentating from the safety of their own home, and then they become these professional commentators, quote unquote, over a professionally shot and broadcast basketball league. You could then add all these different camera setups. So using the sitcom example, if you wanted to follow a character, You could have a team following each individual character, same story, but then you can self-select and then influence the direction of where that character goes. Like, that's all simple tooling from a tech perspective, from a video player experience perspective. You just literally put buttons in there that people can click. That doesn't exist today. I mean, it can exist today. It doesn't really exist today, but there's basic, like, quality of life experience tooling that I think will be built pretty soon by somebody. And then it can get much deeper than that, right? You can, I mean, we were just talking upstairs about like, the whole emoji thing on iPhones now. Like you make your own little cartoon and it responds to your face. Kind of mildly creepy if you think about it. But what if, like, as people are watching on their phones and you see people smile or laugh or frown, that gives you data now as a production team naturally that you can react to in the course of the live show. So there's all this stuff that's happening out there that is completely untapped. And again, as creepy as that might be, like, you can kind of naturally respond to people eventually as they naturally respond to you and in your process of creation.
Let me ask one more question before we go to questions. Just because we have such a rare body up here that sees so much work, what are the two most interesting things in content, or two most promising things that you're seeing right now? Just to be trite, it is sort of the golden age of content. There's more TV content produced than there's time to consume, all that. Who is getting this right? The top two. And Tiffany, let's start with you.
No pressure.
You can say something that Disney owns. It is not a wrong answer.
Get back to me.
All right.
Into the Spider-Verse 2.
Burn.
Oh, damn. That's
Oh,
a good
start
one.
that.
That's
Why?
a good one.
Sequel was just announced. Why Into the Spider-Verse? Apart from winning the Oscar and everything.
I mean, I just thought it was awesome. Like, it was very unexpected. I think they got everything right. The animation was spectacular. The story was great. The voice acting was awesome, and the music was so good. And the sound design was just so good. I don't know. I think everything about it. I went in with like zero expectations, except for people saying it was good, and so maybe that's why I was blown away. But I don't know. I thought the animation style, like the dynamic nature of how they animated like individual scenes, was cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Burn.
I'm going to have the most interesting thing in content. I'm going to give you a technology answer. I'm sorry.
All right.
Right. I actually think the most interesting thing in content with technology is like the mechanisms to build a tiered experience for users based on monetization.
Agreed.
So Twitch has this ability with the subscription tier model. Patreon has this ability.
Yes.
YouTube has this ability.
Discord does. Yes.
And why I mean that, why I'm saying this is because people go like, oh, all this interactivity, you can hear everything I say up here, what we say here about interactivity, and you can agree that, and you don't have to agree, but let's say you agree that everything we say up here is super cool sounding. You probably, if you're a business person, you're going, this sounds really expensive. This sounds so hard. Like, why would we do this when we can just do a movie? And I go, if you build in these tiered mechanisms for content, then you're in a freemium model. Now you're in mobile gaming. Now you can get a user to pay $1,000 a month who can pay $1,000 a month. Let them do it. If you have a mechanism. Patreon allows you to do that. Twitch allows you to do that. YouTube allows you to do that. Well, Facebook probably at some point. Yeah. But you can't do that on Netflix, and you can't do that with Game of Thrones on HBO. They max out at $15 a month. Yeah. Doesn't matter how rich you are and how much you are a fan. That's what you get.
We're in violent agreement, and Kevin and I talk about this often, is Pareto's principle guides all of life, but especially in media, even in traditional formats, right? So like on YouTube, 20% of viewers drive 80% of consumption time, period. And yet all fans are treated the same, invariably, right? You even look at the box office, 10% of moviegoers drive half of the box office receipts, and yet all of us are treated the same, right? So you're absolutely right. This is the single biggest untapped opportunity.
Yeah, mobile gaming, right? Mobile gaming. 2% of the audience drives like 98% of the revenue for the whales.
Case in point. Exactly.
Like Pokemon Go, right?
That's right.
Something like that. Some crazy amount.
It's that old mantra, if you're a Justin Bieber fan, you'd rather, 1,000 people pay $100 than 1 million who pay you $1.
Yeah.
Because they're so much more sort of ardent.
Yeah.
Or whatever the math is.
Long story short, there are lots of really rich people that really like to spend money in video games.
And are really bored. Or I guess not bored, really active. Tiffany, how about you? What's the most interesting thing you've seen?
I agree with both of them, but I think as far as the most interesting content, at least for me, when I watch things, is the storytelling and how authentic and how much that I could relate to see the honesty and rawness of a project. And of course, the people working on the project, I just love working with people who are true, honest, have a really great passion and
That's fair enough.
just being truth and honest.
That's fair enough, which is unfortunately hard to find these days. Let's go to questions really quickly.
Questions. No questions.
Have to make them good. Go ahead.
Right in the middle. Nope.
They need the little
ahead.
box that you can throw.
Yeah, what happened?
No, I'm not in the middle, but I hope I'm acceptable. My question is about any ethical considerations regarding the use of the data in these creations. Are there concerns about that? Or if somebody's on that platform, their data is open game for the creators and for what results ultimately from it?
Sorry, by data, do you mean like the human viewer's own personal data?
Yes, you mentioned active and passive data.
Yeah,
I guess the passive data part.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think each platform treats data very differently. In this case of this show, you're really only collecting voter, the like literal poll data. So first episode, they're selecting what Sophie's favorite color should be, seemingly inconsequential, but of course has some consequences in the future, all the way to like should certain characters exist or not, or like exist in the show or not, essentially voting on and off people. And that's not like, I don't think there are any ethical concerns about that. Versus, a lot of companies use a lot of your data to recommend content to you. And there's probably a line there, right? Purchasing data, demographic data, personally inputted data. From our perspective, we don't do that. We collect an email and a birthday for your account login. We don't collect anything else. We really wanted to make it as pure a content experience as possible. Obviously, there's mature gating. So we do want to collect a birthday to make sure that people are watching age-appropriate content. That's our philosophy. I don't know, as companies, how do I say this without getting in trouble? Yeah, as companies get
I'll
bigger.
say, there are bigger companies with bigger platforms who don't adhere to their community guidelines because they're scared and should.
Nice.
There are two in particular that I'm sure you know, because one's red with the other's blue.
Wait. From the creator's perspective, I want to answer that. From the creator's perspective, because that's really important. Because, for example, on Twitch, the API, I do have access to geolocation. So I can see where all 100,000 people who are watching live are in the world. Not like to the IP address, but like...
Can't get to your house.
Yeah, but like to the country, for example. So that's pretty powerful data that I could use inherently for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. I look at it from the world like I am one creator, so I will do what I can in the ethical world of this. Like I will use the data correctly, and if it's there, fine. I will use it to optimize the experience. I'm not going to be predatory, but that's me. And I think all I can do as a creator is lead by example, because I don't control the platforms. I don't control Facebook or Twitch or any of these platforms. And and I don't have access, for example, like I said, Twitch doesn't ask for gender. So people go like, oh, what's your male-female demographic split on artificial? I have no idea, because that data does not exist on the Twitch platform. And so I can theorize, but I can't give you a strong answer without just throwing a survey into the chat. But so on YouTube, if you've seen YouTube Analytics, and I know Bing has, huge, tons, endless data. And so from there, as a creator, as a storyteller, you have the platforms who should be using ethically, and there's a whole debate about that, and I'm not them. But as a creator, I feel that I should be using them ethically as well in telling good stories.
We have time for one more question that's quick. Go ahead.
You guys were mentioning subscription-based models. And as a producer, obviously, we want to speak to the needs to monetize. And so my question is, I know Twitch, I'm a sometime user of Twitch, so I've used bits every now and then. Can you talk a little bit about another kind of form of monetization using bits?
You go first.
All right. So, I mean, this kind of answers Bing's last question, too, is like what's exciting in media right now is there's like almost an infinite amount of commercialization tools that you can use. So digital media really started with advertising, standard pre-roll, et cetera. Influencer marketing is becoming a thing where you could bake in, burn in, or whatever the term of art is there, an advertisement into your show. Then subscriptions on Twitch, we were kind of the first to do it this way, which is to say all the content on Twitch is free. People still pay $5 a month to subscribe to an individual channel that is free to watch, not because they get an ad-free experience, strictly because they feel like they are supporting the broadcaster. This is a pure patronage model. This has been dominant in Asia for a very long time in the form of what the gentleman mentioned is what we call bits, which is just virtual good. It's a consumable. It is something you buy with real cash, you deploy via chat by typing in the chat command, and then that creator gets money from that bit. That bit then becomes money in their account that they can extract later. And so that's also just patronage. That is sometimes it is a celebratory moment, as in someone wins a game, and then people might donate that bit or that whatever currency on any platform. But it is a sort of instantaneous, transitory satisfaction of feeling like you're giving. In exchange, you might get recognition. And that is a key for live stream shows, is to offer up the opportunity that a fan might get called out and recognized, or maybe even get to play a game or show up on a show or a talk show with their favorite streamer. In other words, your relationship with a celebrity is it's much more believable, authentic, and much tighter as a result. Does a patronage model work for a Game of Thrones? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe if they didn't talk about how much money they were spending on the show, they could have said, hey, like everybody give us $1 and we'll make it awesome. We'll make a good version of this show. And then there's middle tier company. PayPal transacts a lot of money, a lot, for online content creators. That is fairly invisible to the industry. We don't really know how much is being transacted through PayPal, but it is in the billions of dollars a year. There's companies like Patreon, which is another mid-tier layer, a flexible subscription model where you as a creator can define your tiers. Many people have found success on that for both just regular user-generated YouTube shows all the way up to TV show, professionally shot TV shows, quote unquote. So there's lots of different methods to earn money these days. And I think that's really exciting. And it means you can kind of design the show however you want. You don't want commercials in your show? Don't do commercials in your show. No one's going to stop you. So there's that flexibility of business model, I think, is really good.
Okay, so just really quickly, I know to wrap up. Using the bits system, our show, we use it, you donate bits, she shouts you out pretty much every time. Okay, the character shouts you out. In character, we write it in the script, she does it. So that's one thing. The second thing we do, going back to the voting model, right? We implemented a system this season, very revolutionary, but very simple if you think about it. Completely unpatentable, by the way. I tried. But polls goes up, okay? You as a viewer get one vote for free. You've bought bits. You can donate bits into it and buy more votes. What does this do? It gives the power to one super fan or a group of super fans to swing a vote different direction. So what it also does on a platform like Twitch, a very chaotic platform, a lot of people trolling, hey, we want the worst thing to happen to that character because we want to see chaos. But then you have the couple fans who are like, we love the character. We don't want to see her go down. We're going to save her, and we got the money to do it. Boom, whole poll swings the other way.
It's like politics.
It's like politics.
One could dream.
But that is the system. And we've proven this as a model to be successful in our show. It's completely scalable, and it's a reason to make a show interactive.
Very good. On that note, Bernie, Tiffany, Kevo, thank you for being with the Asia Society today. Yay.
Thanks, everybody.